The early 1800s enforcement was in Ontario was a rather interesting scenario where volunteers did the enforcement, but their pay was that they got half of the legal fines. So that was an interesting incentive. In the early 1900s, it was a question difficult to recognize who had the lead, whether it was the stewards or the government, but there were game preserves that were put into legislation. But at the same time, the public was creating their own game preserves. So there was quite a proliferation of game preserves, the concept being that if you protected those areas, the wildlife would reproduce there, go elsewhere, and they could be utilized elsewhere. One of the more interesting interactions with stewards developed in between 1950 and 1970, where trap improvements were being proposed, and an interesting coalition between the Canadian Humane Societies and the Canadian Trappers Association. They worked together to develop some more humane traps, and that was followed by the government then putting in legislation which supported the use of those humane traps. Another really interesting one was an organization in Ontario, the Ontario Federation of Anglers and Hunters, came together to develop better hunter safety practices. And when they actually formed as a provincial organization, that was one of their first public campaigns, which has some relationship to our interest of pushing some issue campaigns. And they were very successful in reducing hunter injuries and accidents. And that was followed then immediately by the government passing legislation over a period of years that improved things. Okay. So then the laws became more complicated, and the interesting thing that has happened in Ontario is that there's been parallel laws that support each other and provide a matrix of support for stewardship and stewards. So the key message here is that random acts of stewardship are good. Unfortunately, back in 1996-97, I made the comment at one of these larger gatherings that we need to move away from random acts of stewardship. Spontaneity is good. Individual action is always important, but collaborating and seeing the bigger picture is really important. And we need to collaborate in our stewardship so that the whole impact is greater than the sum of the parts. So what's working well? At the organization level, there are excellent examples of programs that have survived over time. There is a constant challenge of how to sustain programs, but there are some good examples. And we've been working really well at the network level. And this series of conferences is a really excellent example. Ask yourself, what's the organization that hosts the stewardship conferences? It's a loose network of good friends that keep making it happen every 3 years. So what are the things that are working? We've got this a common vision of what's sustainable and what's not. That's coming. We've got networks that are getting stronger, and they're nicely cross-linked, which is a really important feature these days. That's how the health system is getting stronger all the time. The recipe for program sustainability, the benefits that we're looking for, things that are client-friendly, they support stewards, they reflect the priorities. Those priorities are nested into higher level orders of things so that we get that effect of synergy in our work. The benefits are visible to folks, the people that are directly involved, as well as the funders of them, and to the public. and that there's recognition for the success that's been achieved. And of course, it always helps if there's minimal bureaucracy in running the program. And in caps there at the bottom of the list is the most important feature, that the initiatives are fun. The tasks that I think we need to be tackling are to be clear about what stewardship is from our perspective, your own perspective. You may want to add an adjective to it to refine it somewhat, and I don't think we need to agonize over what the definition is, as long as we're all going in the right general direction in our roadmap. I kind of skipped over those. We want to help develop the indicators. We want to document the progress so that it can be shared, support the development of the economic analysis, and continue to support strong collaboration. We want to invest in stewardship to the point that we are sustainable and that stewardship is efficient, and develop national leadership, which is, as one of the previous speakers mentioned, has been sorely lacking. We've got some waves to ride. We've got an incredible network of engaged Canadians. That's something we should capitalize on. We've got a developing social network. We've got the Stewardship Canada portal, which was recommended action from Canada's stewardship agenda. We have at least one really good potential for a stewardship tracking system. We've got the two higher-level meta-issues, the two meta-issues that are globally important, climate change and loss of biodiversity. They're both important in Canada. They should be going hand in hand. A lot of what's needed in stewardship action are common to both. We should be joining those two initiatives. And there is a public demand for leadership, certainly nationally. And I'm just going to skip through some of these points here in order to finish off. You can read those. The social network aspect, I've already mentioned those two things. The climate change and biodiversity, we've covered those. And the public demand aspect, again, as the polls are consistently mentioning that the environment's important to people, and we have a lot of hardworking individuals in this initiative. Government is an important partner. It was really important this morning that Virginia Potter mentioned that she's willing to take the recommendations from this conference forward to the Council of Environmental Ministers. That's a really important opportunity for us, and I was really encouraged to hear that. And the last point here, that our goal is sustainability for our organizations and for us as individuals. We're looking after our life support system, and as is previously mentioned today, we're currently not sustainable in every part of Canada. We've got to work on collaborating to make that happen. So thank you, and I say make it happen rather than let's make it happen, because as Lynn mentioned, I'm going to retire. Who knows, maybe I'll be like Ernie and just say I've retired but never actually do it. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for coming to my retirement party. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Owen. That was great. Depart. I think Ernie has a couple of announcements to mention, and I'd like to again thank the speakers for their timely presentation this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.